ceremony at 7:30 in the morning where no one is informed, barring the two people who are going to be sworn in. So in India, it is hazardous to predict the future. And I will not use this occasion to predict the future because you never know what will happen. Just look at what has happened in the last 3 months. The BJP has lost elections in Jharkhand. The popularity in Haryana came down substantially. The Shiv Sena has suddenly discovered that it was a mistake to mix religion with politics. I mean, it took them 50 years to finally realize what many of us had been saying for years and had been beaten up for saying it. That it took you 50 years to realize. But good for Uddhav Thackeray, good for anyone who comes out in public and admits that it's a mistake to mix religion with politics. And now, as we've seen in the last week, students, or last 10, 15 days in some parts, well, actually a month now, we've seen students coming out, many of them spontaneous, many of them leaderless, coming out and speaking. And last week, when students from St. Stephen's College decided to boycott classes, I said, this is truly revolutionary. When St. Stephen's College, which is seen to be the symbol of establishment, where there have been more bureaucrats, more politicians who've come out, actually also decide that I noticed in the build-up to 2019, and I believe that will perhaps be with us for the next few years. You see, we live in an age which is a breaking news cycle, where today's news is tomorrow's history. So sometimes we tend to get so caught up in what is happening at the moment that we lose sight of the big picture. So I hear people now saying, yeah, this must be the beginning of the end of Mr. Modi. Look at all these students, they're now, and I say, hold on. This kind of irrational exuberance, and whichever way, whether you are anti-Modi or pro-Modi, the irrational exuberance that is demonstrated on one hand by Mr. Modi's supporters, who believe he is here for life, and by his detractors, who hope that tomorrow you will have a new government. None of this is going to happen when you look at the big picture. So I'm going to do, at this outset, 10 trends that I have spotted. And look at these trends and what these trends mean for us as a people, as a nation, as a country. The first trend that I want to look at is the rise of what I call the strong man. This is the age of the political supremo. We are a democracy, but we are a parliamentary system which has become presidential in some form. Indians are no longer voting on values, on ideas, on ideology also. They vote for the individual. So even elections in this country have become about a presidential kind of system. Modi versus who? To some extent, even state elections, KCR versus who? When I was here in Hyderabad 14 months ago, if you looked around Hyderabad, you only saw KCR's pictures. It seemed almost as if the opposition was invisibilized. And we saw that in Delhi also during the national elections. Elections in this country are becoming about people hankering for this superman. Who is going to be that one, or superwoman possibly? Who is going to be that man or woman who's going to solve all our problems? So while there are 543 constituencies in the country, many people actually voted for an individual, not a political party. I start my book with an instance which I think reflects this. There's an old lady, she goes, 80-year-old lady goes to Raebareli, true story, and creates a huge fuss. Says, ye EVM jo hai, isme khot hai. Ye EVM galat hai. So that returning officer comes and says, what is the problem, madam? Nahi, aap logon ne cheating ki hai. Isme Modi ji ki tasveer kidhar hai? He says, but EVM पे मोदी जी की तस्वीर नहीं होती, वो पार्टी की होती. नहीं, मैं मोदी जी के लिए वोट करने आई हूं. Now she didn't know the name of the candidate, she didn't know anything beyond the fact that there was one individual she wanted to vote for. And our post-poll study shows that 1 in every 3 Indians who voted for the BJP in 2019 voted only because of Narendra Modi. So what is happening as a result is candidates matter less and less, and we are becoming willy-nilly, slowly an elected autocracy. wherein the individual matters much more than any institutions. And this may be a trend which is global, across the world, whether it is a Trump in America, whether it is a Putin in Russia. I hate to suggest that we will go the Russian way, but maybe we'll go the Turkey way of Erdogan, who tomorrow decides I am going to be president for life. But essentially we are creating an elected autocracy in the manner in which elections are now run in this country. And money, the media are all weapons in this, used to prop up this larger than life image, this personality cult, particularly the media. The way the media covers the election, you tend to invisibilize a particular, you tend to invisibilize the opposition and prop up an individual. So that is one trend, and that trend is getting accentuated across India. Not just in Delhi, but across India today, if you look, there is this hankering for the strong leader who's going to fix the system. The second trend and link to that is the fact that while we talk about economy in recession, my belief is democratic institutions are in recession in this country. And we can go and look at them one by one. Take a look at Parliament, for example. Article 370 is moved in the Parliament at 11 a.m. in the morning by the Home Minister of the country without informing the opposition. You put it out there, you say, I am sending a copy to the President, now let's debate. So you've already got it, getting it passed from the President, then we'll have a debate. Same thing with Citizenship Amendment Act. We are bringing in the Citizenship Amendment Act, we brought it in, it's in enforcement, now let's have a dialogue. When actually democracy demands exactly just the opposite. That first you have a dialogue, first you have a process of consultation, and then you decide what you're going to do. So Parliament has been reduced to a notice board. Today in Parliament, this will happen, please vote for it. We'll decide tomorrow what fallout it has. And we've seen that happening time and time again. So it's not an isolated instance. Time and time again, controversial, contentious legislation is being pushed through by reducing Parliament to a notice board. The executive, frankly, is a rubber stamp. To my mind, one visual this week exemplified this problem. The Prime Minister of the country chooses to have a meeting with industrialists on Monday and with economists on Wednesday. These are supposedly pre-budget meetings. The one individual who is absent at these pre-budget meetings is the Finance Minister. Now, it either means that the Finance Minister, and so I asked someone, where is the Finance Minister? Is she out of town? She may be traveling. No, sir, she is very much in Delhi. She is explaining the budget to party workers. Now, imagine a serious meeting that has to take place on the budget with economists, with industrialists, does not involve the Finance Minister, which means essentially we are no longer a cabinet system, but a one-man system which has become a two-man system. I call them Gujarat Jodi number 1. You know, there's the Prime Minister and there's his Svengali, Amit Shah. In fact, in the book, and this is a relationship that goes back, and this system, this is the Gujarat model which has gone national. Please understand, this has not happened yesterday, or today. 1987, Mr. Modi and Amit Shah first fought an election together, Ahmedabad municipal elections. I was told by old Gujarat journalists that they would go through the bylanes of Gujarat, Amit Shah on the scooter, Modi on pillion. I've still tried to imagine what that must look like. But in that election, they engineered defections, they paid off independents, they did everything that they could do at a municipal level, which now you want to do at a national level. And even in Gujarat, when Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat for 12 years, for about 10 years of that, Amit Shah held 12 portfolios. He essentially was the one who ran the government. So there is the mascot and there is the executioner. There is Don Quixote and there is Sancho Panza. But the fact is that this is a relationship which they have built and nurtured over 32 years. In fact, the cabinet meetings in Gujarat would never last more than 10 minutes. Mr. Modi would come, say a few things, go away. Amit Shah would then conduct the remaining meeting. It now happens in Delhi. So the executive has become a rubber stamp. Then you have so-called autonomous institutions, like the Reserve Bank of India, like the Central Information Commission. The Reserve Bank of India has seen 2 governors quit in the last 5 years, including the hand-picked governors. Because when you come up with a major policy initiative like demonetization, you go against the Reserve Bank of India governor's advice. When you want money out of the Reserve Bank because your coffers are emptying and the governor of Reserve Bank puts his foot down, what do? You force him to resign. Your man, Ajit Patel. So the Reserve Bank of India, which is supposed to be the guardian in a way of our treasury, of your and my money in a way, is also a handmaiden to the government. The government can, when it wants, dip into the Reserve Bank's coffers, use that money and use that money possibly to make itself more electable. The Information Commissioner, the Chief Information Commissioner, Chief Vigilance Commissioner, Chief Information Commissioner, many of the Information Commissioners have not been appointed for months. There are there are positions that have been vacant for more than a year. I asked someone why. He said, sir, ab kitna information aapko denge? So most RTI applications therefore now go not applicable. Can't give. Now these were supposedly the checks and balances of our systems, the so-called watchdogs. The Reserve Bank of India was to be a check on the government in the way its finances were run. So were these information commissioners. So were the police. Look at how the Delhi police has behaved on JNU. They hold a press conference. And in the press conference, they name 9 individuals. The 9 individuals have been named basically using various videos that have been circulated by the ABVP. It is as if the violence that has taken place does not involve the ABVP but involves the left. So the police becomes an extension of the state. And this is again the Gujarat model. Long before JNU, there was MS University. Please see the only liberal university in Gujarat. The state it has been reduced to. Between 2002 and 2010, there were several instances where the VHP walked into MS University and resorted to violence. Nobody was at the end of the day prosecuted. So who is to say JNU is any different? So the police becomes a handmaiden of whoever is in power. And more disturbingly, so do the armed forces. Never before in this country have we seen army officers speak so openly about political issues. Army officers write, Air Force officers write columns justifying the government's decisions. So, and then if you do so, you get rewarded one day for becoming Chief of Defence Staff. So the reward system is also very clear. But essentially what you've done therefore is compromised on yet another, or one of the few autonomous institutions in this country. And then of course you have the media. Never before in the history of this country has such a large section of the media been so surrogate and so supplicant to whoever is in power. During Indira Gandhi's regime, they said when the media is asked to bend, they crawled. Today we are doing what you call in Marathi, Sashtang Namaskar. We have prostrated. And the prostration has been done in a manner that defies all sense and all logic of why we became journalists in the first place. More questions today continue to be asked on several TV channels and indeed large sections of the mainstream media to the opposition more than the government. Now, if the opposition, if you are going to tell truth to opposition and not truth to power, then why have we become media persons? But the nature of the media and the manner in which the media is used today to manipulate a political agenda or is used to manipulate minds is almost frightening. It's the media which coins terms like Tukde Tukde gang and urban Naxals, which then get repeated by the politicians. So I don't know who's driving whom. Hashtags on social media are almost in consonance between the political power party and the media. So the media has become a surrogate. All of this leads me to believe that we are entering a phase where democratic institutions are in recession. So that is one trend, and one trend which is likely to accentuate. Let me turn to a third trend, which I think is an equally important trend in the times in which we live. We live, I think, in an India which is seeing what I call the creeping Hinduization of society. The rise of the political Hindu, as I call it in the book. The Hindu, in a sense, has found his or her political identity. Now, we see it in various forms. In Delhi, I see it in the number of cars that have Hanuman stickers on them. I never saw these stickers in the past. Now, everyone wants and it's an angry-looking Hanuman. I want a Hanuman at least who smiles. The Hanuman must not smile. He has to look angry. So the angry-looking Hanuman sticker is all over us. Look at the number of religious rituals that are now celebrated with even greater fervor and with state support. The state now increasingly supports these various religious festivities that are held to a much greater, on a much greater scale. So far more money will be spent today on building a temple, possibly a Bhavya Ram Mandir as they call it, than will be spent on building schools and colleges in this country. Because overt religiosity has now become part of our political template. And the way to do it is clear. You play politics by othering the minorities. You have to find an other. You have to find a new enemy. Aaj ka dushman kaun? So one day it could be, as it was in 2002, the Godhra Muslim. In 2019, it was the Kashmiri Muslim. Aided, abetted, of course, by the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. Never before has Pakistan played such a big role in an Indian election than ever before. And it continues to. I mean, why should you go to Bid in Maharashtra in the elections in October, and instead of talking about the severe water scarcity in the villages of Bid, which had not had water for more than 4 months, you go there and create a Ravan and say, "Humne Article 370 ko jala diya hai." What does the average voter in Bid have to do with Ravan and Article 370? You go to Jharkhand and resort to what I call is clear dog whistle politics. कि देखिए भैया, ये जो प्रोटेस्टर है, ये कौन है आप जानते हैं उनके कपड़े देखकर. This is not being said by some local neta, it is being said by India's tallest leader. And the dog whistle politics continues time and again. Infiltration. जानिए वो वहां से आ रहे हैं, घुसपैठिए हैं, टर्माइट्स हैं, दीमक की तरह. You want to create in the minds of the average Indian a sense that there is an other who is responsible for your situation. And that, to my mind, represents this growing sense that the time has come in a way to create a sense of a Hindu identity. Not a Hindu identity based on the great values of the Gita, but a Hindu identity based by finding the other and making the other your enemy. And that enemy can change. It can be the Khan Market gang and the so-called urban Naxals. It can be the Tukde Tukde gang. I sometimes wonder who is this real Tukde Tukde gang in this country. Those who beat up teachers and students, or those who you claim are Tukde Tukde because they oppose you. Who are the real anti-nationals? Look, the debate is no longer about Hindu versus Muslim. It is national versus anti-national. The number of times a minister in this government, Giriraj Singh, has asked people to go to Pakistan. Pakistan won't have so many visas to give. You are creating in the minds of Indians a sense of us versus them. Which brings me to another trend, which is the growing fear, anger among the minorities, and a counter-polarization that is taking place. Let's be honest, let's not be politically correct. Just as you have a growing assertive Hindutva majoritarian politics, you also have an increasingly fearful, angry minority which says, okay, this is the politics you're going to play, we are going to mobilize. Or we are going to do counter-mobilization. And some of them are getting radicalized, some of them are getting more extreme. And you are therefore creating a potential volcano on which we all sit today. Because this is, at the end of the day, a more plural society. This city represents that pluralism. But what we are doing is pushing each other into our ghettos, into our boxes, and dividing us. And those divides will only increase. Because when the chief executive of the country legitimizes it, when he, through his rhetoric, speaks of Shamshan and Kabristan, you are effectively creating that divide within society. And my fear is that divide will deepen in the times to come. The other trend, in a way, that I believe is increasing in a way, but we don't know which way it will go, is the increasing push for regional identities. There is a growing federal push in this country. India cannot be run from Delhi. And I think Mr. Modi and Amit Shah are making the same mistake that Indira Gandhi made in the 1970s. Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan, one size fits all. It doesn't work in India. Which is why the states where the BJP finds it increasingly difficult to make its marks are the states with much more distinctive regional cultures. You're finding that in Tamil Nadu. You can't tell the Tamilian today that ye aapko Hindi seekhna hai. You can't bring your idea of Hindu-Muslim politics into a Kerala. You can't possibly do that even in Andhra Pradesh. But the pressure, so somewhere down the line, and this leads to another possible trend, a growing South-North divide. You have an India whose politics, and because most news channels are located in Delhi, we think that India is Delhi and Delhi is India. The truth is that if you look at the BJP, their dominance is largely in the north and west of the country. As you move south of the Vindhyas, the BJP finds it much more difficult to deal with the regional identities. And these regional identities will get stronger with time. Already the southern finance ministers are saying, why should we be subsidizing the northern states? Why should we be penalized for having better social indices? And they are probably right. Today you are seeing parts of this country which will possibly grow at 8, 10, 12% and parts which are growing at 2 and 3%. But the parts which are growing at 2 and 3% have much higher population growth rates. Now, therefore, this imbalance between north and south, to my mind, in the years will grow. And in finding ways to manage this federalism, this strongman politics won't do. I don't think Modi can dictate to a KCR, or Modi can't dictate to a Mamata Banerjee even in Bengal, or to a Naveen Patnaik in Odisha. So you're going to have tensions which will come as a result of this kind of Delhi-centric politics being imposed on the rest of the country. Let's also be honest. The BJP is India's dominant #1 party today. It has built the most formidable machine in the history of the democratic world. A lot of it is explained in this book, but I'll just give you one fact. The BJP identified 22 crore Indians who had benefited from various government schemes. Let us assume typically Indians exaggerate. And it was 11 or 12 million Indians, 11 or 12 crore Indians only. The BJP got the list from the government of India of all the beneficiaries of their various schemes, gave this list to a private party in Mumbai called Jarvis, got Jarvis to set up 162 call centers, one call center for 3 Lok Sabha constituencies, paid them, had large numbers of employees across the country. These companies, these call centers had to contact every government beneficiary and tell them, चुनाव आ रहा है, मोदी जी को वोट देना. Now, this complete blurring of lines between Sarkar, Sangathan, private parties, where your and my information can be made freely available to a private agency for political ends. So let's be very clear. The BJP has been waiting for this moment for more than 9 decades. The RSS was formed in 1925. We are in 2019. Narendra Modi is simply the mascot, the messenger. The machine is intact. And it is the most formidable machine. At one level, you have to doff your hat that someone has made politics so competitive. I keep saying, Narendra Modi has done to politics what Virat Kohli has done to cricket. Today, you can't play for India unless you are supremely fit. Similarly, you can't do politics unless you are willing to fight it out. You can't be Rahul Gandhi saying, I'm going on vacation. Doesn't work. Rahul Gandhi has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And I also say this, that unless that Mr. Modi's best ally is Mr. Gandhi. Because it allows Mr. Modi to tell a story or spin a story. Mr. Modi is a very effective communicator. He is a master storyteller. Many years ago, I asked him, sir, what was the subject you liked most in school? He said, dramatics. Now, he is able to spin the story that Rahul Gandhi belongs to the old, entitled, Latvians elite, as Mr. Gopal Krishnan called it over breakfast this morning. That these are the children of privilege, and they are. I am the boy who has come from Vadnagar and come all the way to 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. Contrast the journeys. I am the Karma Yogi. It's a great story. You know, when you think of it, it's like Mahendra Singh Dhoni saying, I've come from Ranchi and I went down to win the World Cup. It's a story which is, of course, embellished along the way. I am a Karma Yogi. I don't know how many Karma Yogis change clothes 6 times a day, but our Karma Yogi does. You know, the fact is that I am a Karma Yogi who works 20 hours. Poor Manmohan Singh also worked 20 hours. Only thing he didn't know how to market it. But here you say, I work hard. The other side doesn't. And then when you show someone who's going off on holidays, vacations, saying, I'm now taking a sabbatical, I look even more impressive. So one trend is very clear. The BJP will be the dominant party, and the opposition at the moment faces serious structural problems. You cannot have a Congress high command culture and be a 5th generation dynasty and expect to take on this highly competitive force that the BJP is today. Let me turn to another trend, which I think is interesting. We live, I believe, in this country more than ever before, and this city is a good example, in the age of technology. Technology is going to be both an enabler and a disruptor. Technology is an enabler to the extent that technology, and Mr. Modi has been very effective at this, is able to in some way ensure direct benefit of various government services and cutting off some of the bureaucratic flab, the red tapeism. So whether it's a Jan Dhan Yojana or whether it's an Ujjwala, whether it is direct cash transfers, the Modi government has been very successful and very skillful in using technology to directly connect with large numbers of masses. And I have no doubt, and this process has not started with Mr. Modi. It started even before. You know, we seem to believe that India got independence in May 2014. It didn't. If you look at the number of Indians pulled out of poverty between 2006 and 16, that's the highest number in the 7 decades of Indian independence. But the fact is, technology is going to play a huge role in the future in enabling many and more Indians to have access to resources that they didn't have. Technology is also a disruptor. And the disruption will be an asymmetry in power. Today, you and I with WhatsApp and with our mobiles can in some way mobilize and come together in ways that were unimaginable 10 years ago. Look at many of these protests. They are leaderless. They are young people sending WhatsApp messages, Facebook posts to each other. We are going to gather here at this point. Let's come together. What it also means is there's no place to hide today. Technology will ensure in some way or the other that collectivities are built. People can ask questions to those in power in a manner that they could never do. So I think technology is, we are seeing it in Hong Kong in a strange way in the protests taking place against the mighty authoritarian Chinese regime. And who is to say this won't happen in this country as well? We are seeing 1 million mutinies brewing in different parts of India. There was a farmers' protest 2 years ago in Maharashtra which was not led by anyone. The farmers came spontaneously on the streets in a way. And it was unheard of. 10, 20 years ago, you had to have political rallies, you had to organize them. So the same weapon, and the BJP has used WhatsApp as a weapon to mobilize it, will also have a counter polarization in the years to come, possibly, from ordinary Indians who feel left out. Let's also be honest, that while democracy is in recession, the economy too, at the end of the day, is the other big challenge that we face. How are you going to provide jobs to the millions of Indians who are entering the job market every month is an issue which is simply not debated or discussed enough. And the truth is, we are entering an age of, yes, India's great demographic dividend, but also of a potential demographic disaster. The young are starting to ask questions. There is an anxiety. It hasn't turned into anger yet, but there is anxiety. There is anxiety over the future in a country where the divides in society are widening. And how are they widening? Early before 1991, there was a license permit, Raj. You wanted to set up a factory, you got a license from government, you knew someone, you did it. Now we are moving from license permit to what I call the age of the oligarchs. If you want to sell your airport, if you want to get airports to be sold through tenders, all will go to Adani. Ports, Adani. Oil, Ambani. Telecom, Ambani. A very much like a Russian model, where you have these oligarchs who are coming to power, and a growing iniquity therefore among people. Resources. We thought liberalization would ensure a greater, wider distribution of resources. Yes, the Indian middle class is growing. More and more people are flying Indigo, which their fathers or their mothers could never do. But along with that, there is a growing concentration of resources around a few individuals. And those individuals have enriched themselves through personal contact. Economic reform in this country no longer takes place through policies. A large number of it takes place through personal relation. आप जानते हो इनको? If you know someone, your work will get done. So it's not as if the economy is pushing ahead through genuine reform. Yes, Mr. Modi's government has done some valuable reform, insolvency and bankruptcy code being an example of it. Yes, on solar power they've done good work. But by and large, the entire model seems to be much like the Gujarat model, private-public partnership. We will decide who we are going to give which contract to. Finally, I come to the trend that I hope offers the real hope in the future. And that is you and me, the citizens of this country. We are, frankly, the most aspirational mobile society the world has ever seen. I believe we are more aspirational than even America was in its pomp in the 20th century, early part of the 20th century. Every Indian has only one ambition. Mere bete or beti ko, I want them to do better than I did. And we will break any door to do it. And to my mind, the energies of that civil society, groups like Manthan represent the strength of this civil society. Which is why, those who say India eventually, हम कहीं चीन की तरफ नहीं जा रहे, टर्की जैसे नहीं बनेंगे, रशिया, अरे ये इंडिया है, यहाँ ये नहीं हो सकता है. We will not become China because of you. Because Indians will at the end of the day ask questions. हम सवाल पूछना अच्छा. Indians love to ask questions. We love to debate. Dissent is in our lifeblood. You cannot push us beyond the point. You cannot tell us what to do top down all the time. And it is that civil society, I think, which eventually will have a pushback. Because a pushback, to my mind, is inevitable in societies like India. We saw it in the 1970s with Indira Gandhi. And what happens with these supreme leaders is they get disconnected from the people. They talk of India first. We should be asking them about citizen first. They talk of new India. We should be asking them about a better India. You tell me how you're going to build a better India. You can't build a better India based on hate, bigotry, dividing people. You can't build a better India on a permanent steroids of toxic populist nationalism. आज सीए, कल एनआरसी, परसों मंदिर, चौथे दिन सिविल कोड, ये बबल नहीं चलता रहेगा. It can last only up to a point. Because people at the end of the day in this country want to know, the aspirational Indian wants to know, please tell me how you are going to give me a better life tomorrow. Yes, the politics of caste and community can have short-term vote bank politic benefits. But in the long term, it is my belief, maybe I'm an optimist, India is a land where the country is bigger than individuals. Today you may build around this cult of bhakti and say, नहीं, आप मोदी जी के खिलाफ एक शब्द बोले तो हम आपको ठोक देंगे. I heard this in a program I did 2 days ago with Kanhaiya Kumar. तुम बोलो तो ठोक देंगे तुमको. I never thought that this language would be used. But this is the new India language. This is not the language of a better India. This is not a language of citizen nationalism. When people ask you about religious nationalism, you need to counter it with citizen nationalism. That puts citizens first. I don't know what more I can add, but I'm happy to take questions. Thank you all very much for hearing me out so patiently. Thank you.